Welcome to the Rollercoaster Ride of Business with Hannah Edwards on Global Voice Radio. Hannah and her guests share the real deal, the ups and downs, the highs and lows of building a business. Here is your host, Hannah Edwards.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Rollercoaster Ride of Business. I'm your host, Hannah Edwards, and today I am joined by the lovely Carol Davies of Passion Motivator Coaching. Carol has a show on the Global Voice Radio platform called Only the Best for You, and as well as being an author, which is exciting because I love reading, she's a passion test facilitator. She's certified in emotional freedom techniques and neuro-linguistic programming, and she's also worked with the UN. So there is so much that I can talk to you about on this show today. Thank you for joining me.
It's really great to be here with you, and I am really excited to see what we're going to explore today.
Well, obviously, I've just said that you're a passion test facilitator, and your show is Only the Best for You, and you're the CEO of Passion Motivator Coaching. What is a passion test facilitator?
Well, about 20 years or so ago, there was a few people that created it. Was called the Passion Test. It's created by a lady called Janet Ray Atwood and her former husband, Chris Atwood. And what it is, it's a sort of a 2-day seminar that one can take to learn how to diagnose what your passion really is in life that you could follow. And I went for extensive training to learn how to give this particular, it's like a seminar, like over 2 days.
Yeah.
And it goes quite a there is a book that people can get. It's called The Passion Test, the Effortless Path to Discovering Your Life Purpose. So it's all about how you tune into, what interests you the most, your talents, your strengths. And if you're not clear, but hopefully by the time you finish doing the training, you also know what your life purpose is, like why are you here, and what are you hoping to do in life. So hopefully by doing that, you can align what you really want to do with, let's say, what's going on in your life or in a career. And sometimes you can find out that you're not in a job that's ideal for you or doing really what you want to. So taking the course, the Passion Test, really is very useful for personal development, spiritual development, and it's so exciting.
I was going to say that actually sounds really exciting, and it's something that I think I'm definitely going to look into more especially when we finish this, because it sounds like something that a lot of people could look into doing just to make sure that they're on the right path in life.
Yeah, people could find out information. It's online. It's the website is thepassiontest.com. It's got a lot of information about it. It tells about courses, and they've got a blog and all sorts of things, different books. So you can do a bit of research before.
Yeah. So I guess that obviously with your business being the Passion Motivator Coaching, that's what you help people do to find their purpose and their passion.
I do. I work with small business entrepreneurs mostly now, and I find them either through local networking here in the city where I am, or through different Facebook groups that I participate in. But the key thing that I'm most excited about is to help someone who is, say, a business entrepreneur, maybe just starting out, or someone who wants to make a change in their life they find perhaps that their job isn't that exciting, they don't feel fulfilled, or they just come to a point where they don't quite know what to do, where to go. So I team up with, an entrepreneur like that, or even, other types of people. And we work together as a team to diagnose what is exactly the most important things that they feel they want to do in life, what they really get excited about doing. So I go through a procedure with, I have some different questionnaires, and we talk about things, and they do some writing and keep a journal. And after a couple of weeks, we try to pull together a few key points to work on and make a short-term plan, say for a month to 3 months. And what would they like to do? And then make a plan. And then how are we going to do this? I say we because I don't like the client to feel like they're just on their own. I look at this that I'm in the journey with them, not telling them what to do, but helping them find the way.
Well, that's really exciting. What is it that made you decide to want to go into that industry?
I think it was because for most of my work career, I worked in large organizations, and I really was not doing the work that I felt I could have done best. I had several very good jobs, very interesting, but they didn't make me feel excited about getting up in the morning, rushing, into, the office. And it's like you wake up in the morning and it's 7 a.m. Oh boy, I have to be at work at 8:30, and what am I going to do? So I sort of, got myself there and whatever. But I also worked in middle management quite a bit too, and had a lot of training. So as I went through my career, I found out that I really liked working with people, helping, motivating, and guiding them. And being in a large organization, I think you mentioned before, I was in the UN for quite a long time, which is a very dynamic and vibrant place to work. But it's not a place where you can express yourself or do a job the way you want to. You have to do it according to procedures and protocols, and this gets done this way, and you don't always get the credit for things you do. So I had about 10 years ago a chance to get a sort of an early exit package, and I took that, and then I thought, what do I want to do? And I thought, I'd like to be a coach, because I started taking some night courses in how to become a coach, because I was working for a long time in Geneva, Switzerland, and I found a company called the Coach University, and they gave online training seminars at different times of the day. And with the time difference, I was able to take courses at night and still keep my full-time job. So over a year and a half, I became qualified to be a coach. And when I finally left and went back to Canada, where I'm from, I thought, this is great. And I took a little bit of additional training, and I opened up my company, and I just took off from there.
So what difficulties have you had? Obviously, my show is called the Rollercoaster Ride of Business. And as we describe the roller coaster, you can have fabulous highs where you're on the top, and then that dip comes up, and people might not have been expecting it. But a lot of people that I've spoken to, when they hit that dip, they don't then have the motivation to get back up to the top again until they find out that other people have been in the same position as them. So have you run into any difficulties along the way in your business?
I've run into several, actually. When I first came back to Canada, I set up my company, and I work from my home. So that was really nice. But to start out as a beginning coach, it really took a while to make connections, to find people who were interested to be clients. So I took a bit more training in sort of holistic healing techniques, one which is called the Emotional Freedom Technique. And you mentioned before the neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
And through that, I started meeting and networking with people who were looking for ways to, change their life, in a good way. So I think the first low I had was I started my business and I was all excited, but the world did not come flooding to my door. So what I decided to do is take this additional training and get out there. And, I networked a lot. I went to meetings. I gave little seminars, and bit by bit, it started working. And also I found out I was able to work through the telephone. So that widened my scope quite a bit. Rather than just doing, in-person one-on-one, I'm able to also help people through, using Skype or other sorts of things like that. And also I found out that I could help people via email. So I had to change the way that I did things, one-on-one just wasn't working because there wasn't a pool of people that was that excited to come and, work with me. So I had to find other techniques to do that.
I guess that's one of the things that a lot of people find in their business. They get set up and then they're sat there waiting because they get so excited about the idea that they've got in the business that they're running. And I think sometimes in our minds, we expect people to just suddenly come knocking on our door. Like we've put the word out there, we're here. And then we're just sat there waiting. And like you said, it's all about changing how you do things. And I guess for you, the power of technology has been great for your business, like being able to do things over Skype and email and on the telephone, as opposed to just doing it one-on-one.
I think so, because I enjoy doing the one-on-one, but it limits how I can help people because you devote, let's say, if you work with a person and you meet with them 3 times in a month, let's say you do an hour session, that's great. But I also found that I was able to extend the amount of people I was able to help by going with email coaching. And I'm in the process now of adding what they call group coaching.
Oh, that's cool.
What I do. So that gives me a chance to assist more people using the same time in a way. And I'm also in the process of developing a couple of courses that people can take on subjects of interest. That means when they go through it, it's like a type of coaching, but they do it at their own speed. So
that's very cool. I mean, like, you're one of the only coaches that I've heard of that actually does email coaching. Like a lot of people that I've spoken to that are coaches, because obviously I have my business magazine that Global Voice Radio is featured in, and I also have my virtual assistant business, and I help small businesses with their little tasks like social media and stuff like that. So I'm a member of a couple of coach groups on Facebook, so that because they're the ones I actually find hire virtual assistants more, because they get to that point where they're eventually so full that they can't take on their social media or like their newsletters and stuff like that. And not one of them that I've spoken to actually offers email coaching.
Well, I've been doing it for a while. I mean, it's not something that a lot of people pick up on, but there are some people that don't necessarily want to talk on the telephone, or they don't want to meet via Skype because they don't like video or whatever. But what I do, if I do coaching by email, is I set up sort of a program of what do you want to accomplish, let's say, in a month.
Yeah.
And send them questions and things to think about, and for them to come up with ideas and a plan, and then for them to go away after we've, had an initial set of emails, and then report back how are they doing. And if they're having problems, then I have a certain amount of time that they can send an email, with a question or clarification or something might, occur to me, and I'll send them a, a little suggestion or something.
Yeah, I like it. We mentioned neuro-linguistic programming. I'm actually going to ask you, what exactly is that?
Well, neuro-linguistic programming is a very technical term for sort of reprogramming how the brain processes information and your behavior based on it. Because we are basically programmed to act in certain ways because of the way that we have interacted with our environment, or how we've been taught. Like when we were young, in our families, there was a certain way of behaving or being in school, you learn certain things, or even being in your own country and your own culture, there's a way of being. Now you in the UK and we here in Canada are quite multicultural. Yeah. So there's lots of people that have different ways of reacting and behaving because of their culture, and just because they live in a country that's not theirs, they don't necessarily assimilate, into whatever. So they can stand out and find problems. I've had several people like that. And also, when I worked for the UN, which was for, almost 22 years, I worked with people from over 100 different countries. And you got to learn how to, be flexible and not judge, and try to see if you weren't having an agreement with somebody, how could you approach that? Like, how could I change my approach, or how could they change theirs? So neuro-linguistic programming is a little bit like that. You have a behavior or something that you do that you want to change. So it's like changing habits. I mean, you can change your thoughts too, because thoughts become sort of habits in a way. Like you can always say, oh, I'm not good enough, or, I'm so stupid. Let's say you do something and it doesn't work. But with neuro-linguistic programming, you catch yourself, like when you're thinking something, and you replace it with a different, more positive or motivating thought. And then you sort of do that several times, and you pick a point in your body that you can touch. And if you're feeling nervous or something's upsetting you, and you've set up, different sort of programming for yourself, you could say, press your fingers together. If you put that in, they call it an anchor. And that's a reminder to you that you can, you've changed. You don't have to, do the old tapes, the old program. That's a very simple way. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, but it's essentially working with someone to help retrain their way of thinking and reacting from negative things to something that they want to put into their life that gives them more happiness and joy, and reduce stress, because you don't want to be doing things and you're always feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. No. Or you're not meeting people's expectations. Sometimes you get to the feeling of doing different things, and if you're in a job, maybe you just have to leave that job. And then if you do, I work with people to plan like an exit strategy. I always advise people, don't quit, without having something else in the pipeline if possible, because especially if you have yourself or a family, you have, daily expenses, living expenses, you've got taxes, you've got food. So to just quit, which seems like a good idea sometimes, I don't do. So I do sort of career coaching in a way too with people, depending on what they want to do.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've helped a lot of people throughout your business with their mindset and stuff. What's been your biggest high being a business owner?
I think my biggest high is knowing that I'm the one in charge, and I can determine at any time what direction I want to go. What interests me, I can pursue. I can get training in certain things if I find that maybe I don't know enough about something.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too is being able to slowly develop like not friendships exactly, but through networking and talking with people I can contact to get help with. It's sort of like an informal support team, and they give you advice on if you need, say a tax accountant, or if you need some resource in the community, maybe for your client that you don't know about, you can contact somebody. So I have that freedom and excitement of being able to reach out to people to provide a solution.
And that's another thing that business is about, is making all of those connections and building your support network up. I don't know if you're like me. I am the only one out of my group of friends that has actually had any interest in being a business owner. Like growing up, all I wanted to do was do something relating to my own business. And I found that when I talk to some of my friends about it, whilst they're understanding in the fact that I might say to them, I can't meet you guys because I've got this many calls and this lot of client work to do, they don't get the passion and stuff that you get from, like the excitement that you get from building a business up, helping that client like get to the next level in their business. Because with my magazine, I'm helping people get seen, and there's small businesses there that might not actually realize that it's easy for them to get published when they come to a small magazine like me, and they're realizing one of their dreams by being in a published magazine. And in my virtual assistant business, it's taking those daily tasks that means that my clients can then go on and get their clients. Have you had a situation where like your friends or family haven't quite understood that this is the direction that you're taking with your life?
Yeah, I have definitely, because they were used to me being in a traditional job.
Yeah.
Most of my prior experience was working with information management and libraries, so very traditional.
Yeah.
It was 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But since I've gone into my own career, I can do that 7 days a week if I wish to.
Yeah.
Or I can decide to work, maybe I want to work Friday through Tuesday and take Wednesday, Thursday off, or I have the flexibility and the freedom to be a bit freer. And some people don't understand that, and they think that you're not really working. And a lot of people don't understand what coaching is.
Yeah.
So they think, oh, well, you sit and you talk to somebody and tell them what to do. Well, no, it's not that. And I think the fact that I went from being predictable to something that is more unknown,
yeah,
puzzled people. Not so much now, but in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone from, I still have my full-time job now until I'm early stages business. My magazine was relaunched in January, and I only started my virtual assistant business the January before. So I'm only a year and a bit into that business. So I've gone from fast food to retail to the job that I'm in now, where I'm working in care. So although my friends and family understand the inflexibility of my care job, sometimes like 1 minute I can have a shift on this day, and this day, and then the next minute they could change depending on the care that the client needs.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're still getting used to the fact that when I sit there and I say, oh, I'm not meeting you on this day or this day because I'm working on my business, because my goal is obviously to be full-time working from home, or I take, like, I'll book a week off of work, like from my care job, so that I can spend that week then working on my businesses. And all of a sudden I'm saying to them, oh, I'm normally at work on this day, but actually I can meet you because I'm off work and I'm not working on my businesses. And I think they're still trying to get their mind around the fact that eventually it's going to be at the point where I can decide the hours that I want to work and the days that I'm going to work, as long as it fits in around my clients. And I think they're trying to change their mindset towards it as well.
Well, I think what you're describing is it makes people feel a little bit unsure, and what they can't put you in a little sort of what they call a box or a pigeonhole, because you're not doing something that they expect, and they can say, okay, Tuesday, Hannah, does this between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, and on Mondays, it switches, like from what I'm understanding. And the same thing with me, because I have a certain amount of clients are with me for a while, and then they reach the point where they're good, and they go off doing other things. So then you've got to get other clients, and then that can change my schedule.
Yeah.
Or maybe I see in the future if I'm going to be doing a bit more group coaching or things offering courses, that's going to change my schedule too, that I'll have to hit deadlines that are dictated again by some other institution, perhaps. Especially if you do courses, you put them on an online platform. Well, you can't just decide to say, hi, here I am, and here's my course, and that's it. I mean, you have to learn another whole set of business procedures that way. So for me too, with doing coaching, I've had to learn how to run a business. I've been coaching now about 10 years, and I would say it's probably the last 3 years that I've really learned a lot more of what I wish I had learned earlier.
Yeah. So we've just been saying about, obviously, where you get to the point where your clients are at that stage where they want to be and they're good and they don't necessarily need you anymore. Did that worry you in the beginning from like a financial point of view? I know a lot of people worry about starting a business because of the finances, and I myself used to be like it.
It is a worry, but the thing to do is you have to look at your business. You have to always be out there attracting potential clients. And it doesn't matter whether it's a service industry or, a product selling, whatever. You have to be out there marketing. So that is something I learned in the last 3 to 4 years, that is really important. Yes, you can't do everything yourself. Also, in my business, I have the assistance of a virtual assistant who helps out a lot, because you can't do everything, or you're working 22 hours a day and you can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that you've got things out there, explaining, in my case, like what I do, or, you can put up a post in maybe a group that you're in saying, oh, I'm getting some free time coming up if you want to work with me. You make it sound really exciting and attractive and things. So you always have to be future thinking.
Yeah.
Certainly in the case of coaching, because clients are not with you for life. They're with you for a certain period of time. They have things they want to accomplish. In fact, if you wouldn't be a good coach if you kept the client forever, because that's not what it's about.
Did you find that some of your clients came on board? I talk a lot throughout some of my shows with people that I'm talking to about those posts on Facebook where you've got the fantastic looking couple and they're like on a yacht somewhere, and they're saying like, these are the emails that I sent out to people and it landed me my $35,000 contract and stuff like that. Did you get people coming to you at first thinking that that's the type of help that they were going to be getting and they were going to become millionaires overnight?
I had a couple like that, But I tend to get people who are more almost to the point where they're desperate to change a major problem in their life that's pulling them down or holding them back. But I know that what you're talking about, like almost like millionaire lifestyle.
Yeah.
And yes, indeed, you can help someone who wants to make more in their business, but they're not going to go from making, let's say, 2 or 3,000 in a month, and then suddenly they're going to be, the next month 50,000. I mean, you see all these things, and it just makes me smile because it's not realistic. I try to work in a realistic way with people.
Yeah.
Always saying, yes, of course, everything is possible. You have to put the work into it, but you have to know yourself first. You have to know what's important to you, what you have to offer, and what type of business, if you want to be in business for yourself, do you want to do? Because quite honestly, there are some people that it's not a good idea to be in business for themselves because it takes a certain type of personality and, as you said before, mindset, because it is isolating, it is frightening sometimes, but there's also a lot of excitement and joy. Some people, though, just want to work a 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday, and get the benefits, and that's great, and that's wonderful too. But there's other people like you or me, and that's not enough.
Exactly. I mean, like you said, business can be lonely, and thanks to the fabulous internet, I was trying to think of a different way to say fabulous internet then, because the internet can be terrible for business as well. But thanks to the internet and the sudden pop-up of networking companies all over the globe, I mean, I know that you've said you've been to networking meetings. There are at least 4 networking groups that I can think of that operate in the UK. I know that there's a whole lot more. I just haven't got around to finding them yet. But thanks to all of that, it doesn't have to be lonely, but unfortunately not a lot of people know about the fact that they can get out and they can network.
Well, I think it's important, and that's advice I give to clients, that you need to build into your work week time for outside activities that are work related, and networking is part of that. It could be going to a talk that somebody is giving where you'll meet people. It can be sometimes they will have a dinner meeting or a lunch gathering, or sometimes even a breakfast or something, that if you find people that seem to be in an area that you find compatible is very good. The worst thing to do is to go to network just to go out and hand out your card. This doesn't work. You have to develop relationships with people. And networking is one way of doing it, but it takes time. It doesn't happen in 1 or 2 things. I was at a networking dinner a couple of weeks ago, and it was in a sort of a pub bar. You couldn't hear anybody, but it was nice, the few people I was sitting beside. But this couple of people went by, and they handed out all their cards. Said, here's my card, here's my card. Do you have one? Well, I didn't have any cards that night for some reason, so I had to say no. But this one girl, she was a massage therapist, came with a piece of paper, like an A4 size, and folded up and she said, I don't have a card, but here, this is about my business, and handed it to everybody. And I thought, well, this is all very well and good, but I was amazed, and I felt sad for her because she just didn't get it.
No. And that's the problem. Some people, I find, think that they don't need to network and they don't need to put the effort in because they've set their business up and it's such a fantastic idea. They could give you the scrappiest piece of paper with their website address on, and they think that all of a sudden you're going to be like, yes, that is the person that I want to work with. Because it is all about first impressions, and if someone doesn't make a good impression on you with their business, then you're not going to actually, well, even with their business, but like with themselves as well, then you're not going to want to work with them if they're not making a great impression on you, because it seems like they don't have that passion for their business. They're just doing it for the sake of doing it. So
basically, yeah. Like this young lady who, well, I didn't even talk to her, just sort of got a paper shoved in my face. And I looked at, I did look at the paper, and it was a two-sided thing. And the back, it was a very bad photocopy. You couldn't even read. So the front part was sort of, a little bit, I thought, okay, I know what I'm looking for about, find information about someone being in business. But the average person, why would you want to go to a massage therapist who gave you a piece of paper on the street?
Exactly. This is it. It's that first impression. Like if you're going and you're trying to get clients, shoving a bit of paper in their face is not the way to do it. Like, because they're going to look at that and be like, well, what is their salon like? Like, what is their technique like? How are they going to treat me when they meet me face to face, kind of thing? Mm-hmm. Because that's what frustrates me when we walk through our town centre. There are people that are just handing leaflets out and stuff like that. And you're just there and you're like, well, I don't want to see a leaflet. I want a face-to-face opportunity with the person whose business leaflet you're handing out, because quite often they've paid someone to go and hand out these leaflets in town, and then you don't see that person. The leaflet is a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. Mm-hmm. So you can't tell what's on it, and you're just saying like, well, that's going straight into the bin. And then there's that nagging bit in the back of my head since I've started receiving emails from people with a magazine about the fact that I'm not doing very well for the environment if I've just thrown that bit of paper in the bin. So not only is that person making a bad impression on me, I'm then ending up feeling guilty because I'm not doing anything for the environment by throwing the paper away.
And sometimes people think, like, if they get their website up, and you mentioned that before, that, this is the most exciting, wonderful thing. And they say, oh, go to my website. Well, the thing is, maybe I don't have the time, and maybe I don't remember their website address or whatever. What I would like to know more about is the person. And you mentioned that, you might hire someone to hand out cards or leaflets or whatever. That would not attract me, because that's not the person that you would be dealing with.
Exactly.
And, you may as well have someone go around the houses and, put the leaflets in their letterbox or something. It's just about as effective, really.
Yeah. They all get shoved straight in the recycle bin in my house. Yep. If it's through the door, and it's because a lot of the time in our area it's estate agents and fast food leaflets that we get through. But occasionally we get the odd slip of paper, and it's about double the business card size, and all it is printed on it a small logo. I can do this, and this. Sometimes it's like a tree cut, like I want to say tree cutter, but someone that comes out to do your garden and stuff, and they maintain your trees mainly as opposed to mowing your lawn type thing. And it's I can come around and cut the trees down. Here's my telephone number or my website, and I'm like, well, that doesn't interest me. Straight into the recycle bin. Because I don't know you. What makes you think that I'm going to come and let you through to my house to cut trees down when you've not actually knocked and introduced yourself, or I've not met you somewhere where we've had a face-to-face conversation?
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that reminds me of is, you're quite right that you're not going to just hire someone who, had this thing through the letterbox, but also it's good if you can get people to start recommending you. That's even more effective than networking, because that means that you have helped people or impressed people, that they feel like saying, look, if you've got a need for this service or this product, I know this person who might be able to help you. Yeah. And then they would, give that person, say, your contact details or whatever. Now, that's different again. And if you start getting things like that, that shows that you're on the right track, because you've developed a very good relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, we had this one leaflet that this person said he was 5 stars at his job. Well, there was no testimonials on it to back it up. And when you look at the website, it's just like a one-page website with the person's contact details on it. And it's just like, well, you say you're a 5-star business person, but I can't even read a review on you. So how do I know that you're a 5-star person? How do I know that I'm not going to be the first person that's employed you, and actually you're going to come out and be like maybe a 1.5-star person?
Yes, and you don't know their reliability because I have a small house, we call it a condominium, and I had last year wanted some garden work done, and someone said they were going to do it. They came, and then they were going to start the job. Now this person was recommended by somebody in one of my networking groups, but then he kept not showing up, and there was this problem and that problem, and his wife wasn't well, and this, that, and the other, and then he canceled twice, and then he would go on Facebook and say, well, I hope everybody understands, but I'm fully intending to whatever. Well, needless to say, I didn't call this person back, and I will not be recommending. And I just felt, the person who recommended him perhaps had a really good experience, but I certainly did.
No, and that's it. Like, I mean, sometimes even with the recommendations coming through, it still doesn't work out, and that is a problem in business. Like, you could turn around and be fantastic for someone one day, but then you find in this day and age people are overselling themselves. Like, I've read on all the networking groups that I'm a member of, they all have like Facebook groups so that if you can't get to the meetings, you can still network online with them. Mm-hmm. And so many times there have been posts put up about how like this business person has hired someone else because they said they can do X, Y, and Z. But when it comes down to it, actually they can't, and they're hoping to learn on the job. But when you're paying them money, you don't want them learning on the job. You want them being able to do exactly what it is they've said they can do.
Absolutely. And when you're, say, a small business owner, you have to be very, very careful of your reputation.
Absolutely.
Because you only get really one chance to make a good impression. And if something happens and then, you are seen in a bad light by someone or a small group of people, they could start, saying, oh, well, this person who does this service or whatever, don't go and see them. And I mean, you'll never be able to undo that damage. You have to be very aware of being honest and true to your word and responsible to carry through that you'll do what you say you can do. And if you can't, then I wouldn't, put it like on a website, or I wouldn't, put out any sort of literature about whatever if you really are not able to back it up.
Absolutely. I mean, I worked in retail for almost 10 years, so I know that for every one person that goes out and for every 5 people that go out and say, oh yeah, you've had great service from this person, it takes that one person to turn around and say that they've had a really bad service, that people are going to listen to that person more, because with the way that things are at the moment, like financially for people, that one bad review can be the reason why they decide, well, I don't want to waste my money hiring that person because they've got that bad review. And then it all affects it down. It's like one massive pyramid thing. You've got one bad review, 20 people have taken note of that, as opposed to taking note of the 50 people that have given you a really good review.
And that is something when we're in business, you can't help. There's always going to be 1 or 2 people that perhaps you don't provide the service they expected, or they don't like how you did something. And you have to take that on board. I mean, that can be a negative thing, that could be one of the lows that, you're talking about the roller coaster. Yeah. Well, if that happens, then the best thing to do is to take a bit of time and examine, well, what happened? Is there any way to go back to whoever that person was and offer something else, or improve something. So it's all about personal responsibility. It's very, very important. You can't lay blame. People say, oh, that didn't happen because it was this person's fault, or the company didn't get me the, product on time, and da-da-da-da. You have to personally just be ethical and be there honestly. I really think that's so important.
And I think the thing that some people forget about is that we are our own brand. We represent ourselves as business owners. So, like, I've been to a couple of business meetings where, like, I've dressed up, but there have been other people there that have turned up in like jeans and trainers and stuff like that. And it's like, well, you're representing yourself. As soon as you walk through the door to that networking meeting, especially if there's a dress code, for some people, there are networking groups where you can turn up in jeans and trainers because it's like a casual networking group. But if you're going to a networking event where actually it's smart dress, the last thing you want to be doing is walking in jeans and trainers, because everyone's going to go, well, you can't take note of instruction just to turn up at this event. What are you going to do if I hand over like my business to you, kind of thing?
It's like the person who does that doesn't value themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't value the impression that they're getting. And it might seem sort of artificial, but people do judge you on the way you present yourself. And you don't have to dress up in designer clothes or shoes or whatever. Just something, that looks neat and just very pleasant to look at.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend a lot of money either to have, 2 or 3 basic outfits if you're going to go to, networking that's not casual, whatever, because chances are you're not going to see the same people all the time. Let's say you have 2 or 3 outfits that you wear to these things. Well, this is fine. I mean, you are you, and as long as you're comfortable in yourself and you feel good, then that's fine. But I suppose we should look at it from the point of view of the person in the jeans and trainers. Maybe they're comfortable that way, but they're not fitting in to give that good impression. And they might have to change their approach of it. And if they don't, well,
this is it. I think that sometimes in that situation, it's about like stepping outside of the box for us, because we have this, like say if you're an introvert and jeans and trainers are what you're comfortable in, but you want to attend that networking meeting where it is more smart dressed, you need to break out of your comfort zone, because going to that meeting dressed in jeans and trainers could cost you that one client that takes you to that next level in your business.
That's quite true. It really is. Because I've been to things like that, and I just, I'm very put off by something.
Yeah.
And then, my mind closes, and maybe that person might have been the ideal one that I could have worked with or whatever. And it just doesn't happen.
Absolutely. So along the way in your business journey, from obviously when you decided to leave the UN and do all of your coaching, training and everything, have you had someone there that has been like a mentor for you, someone that you've looked up to, regardless as to whether it's a person like you or I, or someone that's now more in the like limelight kind of thing, where you're reading about them and you've read like an autobiography about them or something?
Well, I definitely was very influenced by a well-known coach and trainer. His name is Tony Robbins, or Anthony Robbins. He's a very, very well-known American entrepreneur. And
very known over here now as well.
Yes, because I was very fortunate to take some training courses from him. He actually, I worked in Geneva for a while, and he had a course put on actually in Geneva and it was in English, so that was exciting. And it was called Unleash the Power Within. And that led me on to taking about 3 or 4 other major courses of his. So I would say he had a profound effect on just, developing myself, going for things, motivation. Yeah. You can do anything you set your mind to. So that was back in probably the early 2000s. And it had such an effect on me that I think that's one reason I wanted to go out on my own as well, because I just wanted to have that chance to develop what I really wanted to do.
So one final thing that I'm going to ask you for all of the listeners and for anyone watching our video, where can they find you online if they want to come and find out more about you and what you do?
Well, they can find me at the website. It's www.thepassionmotivator.com. Or I'm also on Facebook, and I'm also on Twitter.
Very cool. I will be heading straight to your Facebook and Twitter pages after this so that I can take a follow. You can also find Carol on the Global Voice Radio page, where you can find myself as well. And you can find me on Facebook at Empowered Magazine or Empowered VA. Thank you very much for joining me, Carol. I've had great fun talking to you this evening.
It's been a real pleasure for me as well. And you've given me a couple of good things to think about. And I thank you for that.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for listening. Join Hannah Edwards and the Rollercoaster Ride of Business every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Global Voice Radio, where your voice is heard.